Hey, gorgeous. Welcome to Girl, You're a Goddess, the sacred space where we step into our feminine power, owning our worth, and creating a life that feels deliciously aligned. I'm Hilary Burton, a women's empowerment coach, therapist, and professional dominatrix. Think of me as your personal guide and hype woman on this journey to unleashing your deepest confidence, sensuality, and self-love. If you're ready to heal, rise, and start living like the goddess you are, you're in the right place. So pour your tea or pop that bubbly and let's dive in. Welcome our gorgeous guest today, Angie Hawkins. Angie is a self-love coach who empowers empathetic women who have lost themselves in people-pleasing and toxic dynamics to reignite their self-worth so that they can set stronger boundaries, finally learn to trust their intuition, and love themselves fiercely. She is the author and speaker of Running in Slippers, a raw and vulnerable memoir about finding resilience after emotional rock bottom. Angie has moved from Chicago to Hawaii on her own, jumped out of a helicopter and into the ocean Navy SEAL style. That's so cool. Bungee jumped, skydived, and cliff jumped, yet is still terrified about allowing herself to be seen. Angie, welcome to our show. Thank you so much for
Hi,
joining
Hilary.
me.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yes, I absolutely love your intro, your experiences, and what you are doing. So tell us a little bit about how you got started and your exciting, adventurous experiences and what you're doing right now.
Well, it all started in my childhood, which I think is how a lot of us start out. And I was raised in a very emotionally disconnected family.
Okay.
And, as a child, we don't know how to interpret things. Like as an adult, through my logic and through the inner work that I've done, I understand that my parents were emotionally neglectful because that was just not something they had capacity for. And I understand that. But as a child, I interpreted that as I didn't deserve to be loved. So
Mm,
that ended up being my internal belief. And as most of us know, your internal beliefs are what dictate your behaviors, and then that dictates what you draw into your life. So
yeah.
naturally, as I went through life, I had these dysfunctional behaviors that were drawing in mostly people, but also experiences that reflected my lack of love, my lack of self
Mm,
trust.
okay.
And I also turned it within myself. I struggled with disordered eating for a very long time. When I was in high school, I had anorexia pretty severely. I was 85 pounds the summer before my senior year. And while it was never, and then I gained weight before I went to college. And while it was never that severe superficially, like in terms of my appearance, the
Mhm.
next 20 years I spent like over exercising, under eating. It
Mm,
was a form of self harm and self punishment because I had a perfectionistic mindset. And again, it was just that whole belief that I didn't deserve to be loved. So I had these self punishing and self loathing behaviors.
yes.
And when I was in my 30s, I made some, I call them now in hindsight half-hearted attempts at healing because it was like going to yoga or going, trying all these healing modalities. And there's nothing wrong with any of that. But the problem was I was only doing those things, and that's putting my healing and external things and not actually doing the inner work. So it was well intentioned, but it's just I
Yeah.
didn't understand that I also had to do the work on
Mm,
my own. And in 2017, I went through a breakup and then my dad passed away, and
mm,
I was just plummeted into this profound grief. And I was 37 and I had spent 37 years like stuffing my feelings and numbing my feelings and doing everything to escape my feelings. But when those things happened, it's like I literally could not control the feelings
mm,
that were coming up.
yes.
And so that
Yes.
was the first time I was actually faced with, okay, like these are all the feelings that I've been repressing. It doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
And
Mm,
I was forced into self-reflection So I realized what I had been doing wasn't working. I realized that I was, despite seeking happiness and fulfillment, I wasn't happy and fulfilled. So I was like,
Mm,
well, what can I do to be
yeah.
happy and fulfilled? And that's when I made there's a whole story because I was in the soul searching era, but
Yeah.
that's when I made the decision to move from Chicago to Hawaii, which again, it
Okay.
was very well intentioned because I was trying to be happy. I was trying
Mhm.
to make a better life for myself, but it was
Yeah.
still rooted in this thing outside of me is the thing that's
Mm,
going to make me
okay.
happy. So,
Yes.
as you can imagine, I moved here and I still had the same problems. Not only that, some of my existing problems became worse. So, for example,
Ah,
I was very fortunate because this was in 2018 before remote working was the popular thing to do.
okay.
So I was
Okay.
extremely fortunate that my company allowed me to keep my job and work remote when I
Mm,
moved here. But right
okay.
around the time that I moved, there was a huge management shakeup. So for the first year that I lived here, I was in constant fear of losing my job. And
Ooh,
again, this was at a time when remote work was not trendy or popular. So I just had a huge scarcity mindset about if I lose my job, there's not much else available.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
also had a really hard time making friends when I first moved here, which is something that I had fortunately, I had never struggled with before, but
Yeah.
unfortunately, living in a really remote, isolated place, that made adjusting here even worse. And
Yeah.
then the other major thing that happened was to prove I thought I was, like, proving how committed I was and how all in I was. I immediately bought a condo when I first moved here, but a month
Okay.
after I closed, which was, like, 2 months after living here, a
Yeah.
shared pipe in my building backflowed into my bathroom sink, and I wasn't home, so my entire condo flooded, and so, yeah, it did not start out well, and then, like, the next 2.5 years was just, like, thing after thing after thing, like, my grandma
Mm,
died, I had to deal with a toxic friendship, and it
okay.
was just and because I didn't have the tools for emotional regulation, because I was seeking happiness outside of myself and all of these things outside of myself were falling apart, like, I
Yeah.
myself really started to unravel. Then
Yeah.
COVID happened, so I
Oh
don't
no.
think I have to describe the mental effects of that, but
Oh my
this the
gosh.
straw that really broke the camel's back was I was involved with someone during COVID, and he was married, but he led me to believe that because his wife was originally from New Zealand, and
Okay.
during COVID, she had moved back to New Zealand. He gave me some story about why that was, but then he eventually admitted to me the reason she had moved back is because they were separated, and when she came back, they were splitting up, moving on, whatever. So it
Mm,
seemed safe for me to get
yes.
involved with him romantically because the
Yes.
way he described it to me, like the
Yeah.
relationship was already over, blah, blah, blah. Well, anyway, so for 6 months, even though all these bad things had been happening for a few years,
Yeah.
COVID happened, there was, like, this 6-month period where it felt like things were finally turning around, like, I was happy
Mm,
again, and, like, he
okay.
was
Okay.
teaching me how to surf and,
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
rainbows and unicorns, and then
Yes.
his wife came back, and he was like, "Oh, by the way, we have to stay married on paper for 2 more years so that she can get her green card." And long story short, I basically just had a total emotional breakdown, and I actually attempted to take my own life. I intentionally
Mm,
overdosed on my anxiety medication, but the powerful thing about that experience was
yeah.
so I spent a day and a half unconscious in my bathroom. Somehow I managed to
Oh
text
my
a
gosh.
friend. I was totally blacked out, so and it's funny because I think your soul really knows what you want because, like, physically and mentally, I was not there, but somehow I managed to text a
Yeah.
friend, right? So it's
Yeah.
like, I think my soul, like, really
Mm,
wanted to be here. So I texted a
yes.
friend, I spent another day and a half in the hospital. But anyway, so I was, like, out of pocket for 3 days, right? So I get out of the hospital and I turn on my phone and there were a bunch of texts, and one of my friends in particular I didn't wanna tell anyone what happened because I was so
Right.
embarrassed and ashamed, but
Okay.
one of my friends was particularly concerned because she was having a workshop and I was supposed to go. I didn't go because I was
Mm,
in the hospital, so she was
okay.
concerned, so I was like And it was funny because I was still really high when I got out of the hospital. Not only
Mhm.
was I high, I still had, like, the emotional intensity of
Right?
the emotional breakdown. But
Yes.
for some reason,
Yes.
I thought I was just gonna call her and play it cool and be like, "Sorry I didn't go to the workshop."
It's fine. Nothing happened. I took a long nap.
But so I
I
called her and I couldn't hold it together at all. I told her what happened, and I
Yeah.
ended with saying, "I can't believe I didn't die." And her response
Mhm.
was, "It's not your time."
Yeah.
And it was like her words gave me chills, and even though I was, like, high and out of it, like, her
Yeah.
words were so profound that I was like, "Okay, I know I have a purpose, and I'm determined to figure out what that is." And
Yeah.
and I also knew I needed help, and traditional therapy had never worked for me, so I decided to truly invest in myself and hire a coach,
Yes.
and
Yes.
that is when I learned the value of the inner work, and that's where
Yes.
true happiness and fulfillment comes from.
Oh my gosh. But what a crazy journey to get there. And I
Yes.
feel like the universe just kept piling it on for you, right? We until this woman realizes what she needs to do the
Yeah.
inner work and to just to stop and sit and be with it, right? Because I feel like it was the constant seeking, and so many of us get in that point
Oh,
where we're like,
absolutely.
well, there has to be something else. I'm missing something. I need to go try this, or I need to go meet this person, or
Or I
there's got
need
to
to
be something
fix
else.
myself.
Yes. Yes. And there has to be something outside of me that will be fulfilling that I don't have yet that is going to solve this. And it's truly the inner work. So, oh my gosh, what a crazy, crazy path. And I was thinking about this came up for me too, how you were so isolated, especially moving to Hawaii because you were working remotely too. And so, like, you didn't have coworkers and you didn't have people you knew, and just that isolation. And then being in a relationship of that like manipulation and the not on clear terms, and whew, girl,
Yeah,
you were on a roller coaster of the
I
ups of
know.
so exciting, this is my person, and then the downs of, oh my god, what has been happening, and this isn't the reality I thought it was, and oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I feel for you.
Well, you bring up a good point because I didn't mention one of the reasons why it was so easy for me to move here and keep my job is because in Chicago, I worked from home most of the time anyway. But to
Okay.
your point, it can be very isolating. But when I
Mhm.
lived in Chicago, if I felt that way, I would just go in the office. And
Mm,
I
yeah.
didn't it was something I wasn't even considering when I moved here, like
Yeah.
how isolating it would be to work remote 100% of the time. So
Yeah.
that was definitely a thing. And also, the other thing about that relationship during COVID is our social restrictions in Hawaii were super
Yes.
severe, and
Yes.
I'm normally not the kind of person, definitely not in romantic relationships, but in any relationship, I'm not the kind of person to put all my eggs in one basket. Like, I
Mhm.
never really invest, like, that
Yeah.
much time and energy in one person, but
Yeah.
because it was COVID, he was the only person I was hanging out with, and again, it was at a time I really didn't have that many other friends, so that
Yeah.
exacerbated the situation, so it's like all these things led up to this perfect storm.
Yeah, it's just this crazy domino effect, right? That puts you in that situation, but also like you were meant to experience that as traumatic and as horrible as that was, and like the depth of that, you were meant to experience it to bring you to this place of healing and like, okay, something has to change.
Yeah,
Like
because.
I yes,
'Cause you
yes,
alluded to this a minute ago. Cause someone asked me recently, like, "Okay, if you could go back and change something or give yourself advice, what would you do?"
mm,
And I was like, first of all, I would not change anything. I don't think I would give myself advice because that's kind of, like, foreshadowing. It reminded me, as I was speaking to her, it reminded me of the movie Back to the Future. Cause like, one little thing that
yes,
you go back and change in the past can, like,
yeah,
completely change the trajectory of the future, and I'm totally agree with you. I think I was meant to walk on that path because I needed to learn that lesson because and I talk about all these experiences in my book, like, I wasn't learning my lesson. I kept repeating the same
mm,
pattern, so I
yeah,
actually, as horrible as it was to go through, I needed to hit that rock bottom to actually come to my
yes,
senses, and that's
yes,
why I speak to this because hopefully I can be a cautionary tale to others. I couldn't be that for myself, but
yeah,
because Me coming out of rock bottom was extremely difficult and took a long time. So if you can catch yourself before you get there, it's not that hard and difficult.
Yeah. And I want to honor you sharing that and thank you for sharing something so vulnerable. And I know you do that in your book as well. And I have a question about that too, but
Okay.
I want to thank you for sharing that. And I think other women need to hear that because we will start to follow this trajectory. And if we can see that someone has gone that path and worked their way out of it, but there's also another way, right? There's also a point where we can stop and say, okay, maybe there's something I need to do right now for myself, for my inner self, rather than getting to that point is incredibly valuable.
Yeah, and
So
you know the feeling because you're just feeling helpless and that you nothing you're doing is bringing you that happiness and fulfillment.
yeah, yeah. And that's because we're looking for external stuff, right? When it's
Yeah.
truly internal. Yeah. So because you are vulnerable about your story, I wanted to ask you about that. How much of a process, what did it take for you to be able to write about that in your book and to share it? Because that's scary.
Yeah, so it actually took the rock bottom because I had
Yeah.
an
Mm,
idea. I had the idea for the book. So it's basically a memoir that covers a 5-year
yeah.
total train wreck period of my life. It ended up including the whole rock bottom moment.
Okay.
And I had the idea for it
Yeah.
because, you go on social media and everybody's just posting their highlight reels.
Picture perfect.
Yeah, and actually the idea came when I was grieving after my dad died because I was
Mm,
so sad and depressed, and you go
yeah.
on social media, everyone's all happy, and I'm
Yeah.
like, "Is that really the case?" Like I just saw this huge contrast
You're like,
between
it
real
can't
life.
be. Yeah.
Yeah.
How am I living such a different reality than everybody else? Yeah.
Yeah, so I had this idea for a book. I was like, I can write about all the shitty things that happened to me, and
Okay.
then that might actually be relatable to people instead of logging on social media.
Yeah.
However, at that time, I was terrified of allowing myself to be seen. I had basically 0 self-worth. I was not confident, all of the
Yeah.
things. So it was just this idea that I had. And
Mm,
but, like, I've always been very intuitive, and I didn't really start harnessing that power until after I overdosed, but
ooh, I,
intuitively, even though I ignored my intuition most of the time, intuitively, I was, like, drawn to this book idea. So,
mhm.
as things happened to me, I would, like, write it out as if I were writing a book, but in
Okay.
my mind, I was like, "Oh, but I'm never publishing this, I'm just writing it for fun," you know?
Sure, sure.
One of those things.
That
But
was what
then
you needed to tell yourself to continue making notes on it,
yeah,
so it wasn't this big fear. Yes.
yes. And
Mhm.
then in my first call with my coach, and keep in mind, my first call with him was like a week out from my hospital stint,
Ooh, yeah.
and, like, I had almost died. I still had all of the emotional intensity from my emotional breakdown. Like, my only goal for, like, a 2 to 3 week period was just to make it through the day because that's how fragile life felt for me. So,
Yes.
imagine me on this call with my coach, like, hanging on for dear life, and he asked me, he's like, "If you could do anything, like, you didn't have to worry about money, whatever, what would you be doing?" And the first thing that popped into my mind was the book. So I
Mm,
started telling him all about my book, and I was like, "Oh, I have this idea to be, like, really raw and vulnerable because, like,
yeah.
that's real life, and then people will love it because it's so relatable, and then I wanna go on speaking tours all around the world and have" I call them love tribes, but basically, like, these speaking
Ooh.
events would be safe spaces for other
Yes.
people to be vulnerable and talk about their experiences. But anyway, I just
Sure.
went on, and
Yeah.
he was like, "Did you realize how lit up you just got when you told me that?"
Oh, yeah.
And again, like, I was like when I first started talking to him, I was, like, hanging on for dear life, and I did
Mhm.
notice the state change.
That
So
took
I
you out
was
of that survival. Yeah.
yes, and
Yeah.
so that in conjunction with my friend saying it's not your time, I was
Mm,
like maybe the book is my purpose. And so that day, that first call with my coach is when I firmly decided, like, I'm going to write this book, like, no matter how scary it is, because I feel
Yeah.
like I have a purpose. And whether this is it or not, I just need to do this.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I love that so much. And that's so true. I just had a conversation with someone last night, and she is kind of in an unknown stage of her life, and she's really unsure of her purpose and what she wants to do. And she's kind of doing little things here and there. And I literally asked her that question. I was like, what lights you up? What gives you just a fire when you are thinking about it? And so she started listing these things, and I'm like, no. And
Yeah,
it's not that you have to do it professionally. It's not even that you have to do it, with some kind of goal in mind, but tap into those things, and then those will lead you to your purpose. And so,
absolutely. And
yeah.
have you found usually the things that light people up are the things that lit you up when you were a child? Because we're all
Mhm.
born with this light inside of us, but then it
Yes.
gets dimmed by society or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
for me, it was writing, and
Mm.
I stopped writing in high school because I went to college because that's what society tells you to do, and I
Yep.
studied finance, which is so not creative, and
Oh,
I didn't write for, like, 20 years, and
yeah.
so that
Yeah.
was another reason why the book idea lit
Yeah.
me up so much because it's like, I wanna be a writer, I wanna write. So
Mhm. Mhm.
usually the things that, because I also ask my coaching clients the same question, and I've had people be like, "I don't know," and it's because they're
Yes.
just so disconnected from what
Mhm.
used to light them up as a child.
Yes. Yeah, it's that energy of play. And especially as women, like us with that feminine play, when we're able to
Yeah.
embody that now, when we're able, like as grown women, to go out and play and do things that bring us joy and pleasure and excitement, it changes our energy state. It changes everything that we're magnetizing. Like, it's very powerful. And so I love that you were able to tap into like that play state now for your book. And even having your book in mind at that time may have been the main goal, but also like think of all the opportunities and the resources and paths that's led you on because you did that,
Yes.
and the people you've
Yes.
met and the things you've been opened up to now. And I mean, what are your goals now? It's so exciting to think about, though, like the opportunities that can open up from tapping into that play and that passion. Yeah.
Well, so one of the things I started doing in conjunction with the book is coaching, and
Yes.
I call my coaching program Shine from the Inside because it
Mm.
speaks to what we were just talking about.
Yeah.
Like, because I feel like a lot of self-help speaks to, "Oh, you need to fix yourself," or "You need to do
Mm.
this, you need to do that."
Yeah. Yeah.
But what I focus on, it's the light that you were born with that has
Mhm.
probably been dimmed because society, especially as women, because
Yeah.
society tells us not to be sexual or not to be sensual. And
Mhm.
admittedly, there are functional and dysfunctional ways to approach that, but I feel like the
Yeah.
overall message is no, don't do any of it.
Yeah.
So, but
Can't do anything. It's a
yeah,
no way.
but regardless of what your thing is, it's like I feel like over time through family systems, society systems, our lights just get dimmed. Like for me, I
Yeah.
just did what society says you should do. I got a corporate job, I did all the things,
Yep.
and I was still really happy and fulfilled. But when you rekindle that light inside of you, that's what brings true happiness and fulfillment.
Yeah.
And it not only heals you, but when you're shining your own light, you're inspiring other people to shine their lights. And I'm a huge believer in you're either contributing to raising the vibration of the universe or you're
Yeah.
getting caught up in the fear propaganda and the anger and
Mhm.
everything else that's going on. So when
Yeah.
you shine from the inside, it's like the sun, right? Like the
Mhm.
sun is just glowing in
Yeah.
its own right and doing its own thing, but look at all the benefits it has for not only Earth, but the other planets. So that's the whole concept of shining from the inside. It's like you're healing
Mm.
yourself and you're also becoming a light for others. And just
Yeah.
having that internal self validation that absolutely nothing can take away from you. And that's not to say you don't get triggered or
Yeah.
whatever. It's just, you don't fall into that I need this thing outside of myself.
Right. Yeah. No, and I feel like when we are embodying that, our pleasure, our purpose, our passion, we give everyone else permission to do that. Like,
Yes.
especially the women in our space, right? The coaches, we're leading that. to
Yeah.
open that up. And you have permission to be you any way you want to be you. And I'm a dominatrix, and I give women permission to be in their sensual energy and be in their sexual energy and not feel that suppression and shame. And we need that. We need people who are raising the vibration and stepping forward to lead in their light, because the ripple effect of that is enormous.
Yes.
It's
I
not just
totally
our
believe in
inner
that.
circle. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
It's a
it's
whole
everyone
movement.
sees us online. It's then they're sharing it with their friends. And even what we're doing with our podcasts, with our books, with our speaking, right? It's getting our voice out there. And so other people are hearing our perspective and our light. And it's like, oh my gosh, I have the permission to do that. I can be me.
I know,
Yes.
'cause it would have been nice a long time ago for me, because actually that's one thing I want to eventually start doing is speaking to younger girls, because that's where it
Mm,
starts, right? So I think it
yeah.
would be really cool to, like, catch it before it really snowballs out of control.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Especially during that teen age, those teen years,
Yes.
to be able to realize your value, your self worth, that like your body belongs to you, your sexuality belongs to you. That would be so incredibly powerful. Like, imagine the change of those generations if we were able to do that at what, 12, 13?
I know. Like, in my generation, it was just, like, so taboo to even talk about that stuff. Like, sex
Oh, yeah.
education was just very, like like, educate like, science-based, like, this is
Yeah.
what it is, but it
Yeah.
wasn't any of the empowerment behind it or what it all actually
Yeah.
means.
No, I had barely any sex education, and I grew up in a very traditional household, so like we never discussed it. There was never a conversation. I I went through junior high and high school like absolutely clueless. Had no idea what was going on, and it was just it could have been very different. I mean, that was the journey I was supposed to live so I can be here now and
Yeah.
impart what I know, but also what that would have changed if I would have known that early on is incredible. So we're doing good work.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's why I like speaking about it. Like, I don't really like speaking
Yes.
about my dark moments, but it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, we all go through these journeys for a reason, so it's like, let's talk about it so we can inspire
Yeah.
everyone else.
Yeah. And it's not something that needs to be shamed. It's not something that we need to feel guilty about or suppression about. I mean, everyone is going through these experiences. And when we can normalize that, when we can help other people realize like your feelings are valid and you've
Yeah.
been suppressing yourself for decades. And so to be able to actually express that and feel like you're living fully is life changing.
Yeah, and that's why my ultimate goal is to have I'm just gonna keep calling them my love tribes, but, like,
Yeah.
basically do speaking engagements around the world and have safe spaces for people to talk about these things because I
Yeah.
think it's therapeutic. Also, it's just the comfort and I'm not alone.
Hmm.
'Cause going
Hmm.
back to the isolation, I think, what really exacerbated my whole experience is what I felt like I had to go through it alone. Because my family historically has always been unsupportive, and again, naturally, for that reason, I drew other unloving and unsupportive people, and it
Yeah.
wasn't until after my breakdown that I realized the value of surrounding yourself with loving and supportive people.
Yeah. I feel like as women, we recognize value of community.
Yeah.
Like my most incredible relationships and fulfilling relationships are my friendships with women and the community that I've built. And, but I do think we recognize that more. I mean, it can be challenging to build, right? But I feel like men are really, really isolated in that.
I
And
I agree, but I think they want it because my former coach is a male, and so he
yeah,
coaches men's groups, and they're actually really popular and successful, and I've heard of other men doing this too, and I think you're right, I think again, I think it's the societal
I
systems,
thought you meant at
like
first men want isolation. I was like, I think they're really lonely.
no, I think they are, but
Yeah,
I
yes,
don't think they want to be,
yes,
if
yeah,
that makes sense.
yeah, yeah. No, we're on the same track.
Okay.
I was about to laugh about that at first because I was like, I don't know if they, I don't know if they want to be isolated. I don't think it's by choice. I think it's happening, and yes, society is pushing them towards that, right? Like
Yeah.
it's weakness to express your emotions. You can't talk to your friends
Yes.
about anything. You have to be this macho man, and
But we
that's
all
so
have
much on my
feelings.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and that's so much of what I tap into also with my submissives, because it's not weakness to be vulnerable and submissive, right? To open up, and it's strength to be able to set your ego aside. So
For
I do think
sure.
men need it too. But I feel like women really experience the value of community. And like when we think about how we used to live in our tribes and communities of women, like it was together. We were building families together, we were raising our kids together, and women needed that support. And so I feel like bringing that back now and connecting so many women is valuable. And you experienced the lack of that and how isolating that was. So,
Even
yeah.
modern day third world countries are an amazing example of community because I've been to
Mm,
Indonesia 3 times, I've been to the Philippines, and the
yeah.
first thing you notice, first of all, they're largely community based. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you'll have within a community, like, each person plays a role, so maybe one woman or a few women cook the food for everybody,
Yeah.
or,
Okay.
like, everyone has
Yeah.
a role, so it's
Mhm.
very interdependent, which is totally unlike America.
Yeah.
But the first thing you notice, at least I notice when I go to countries like that, is how happy everyone is, especially the children. Because the first thing I notice when you're around kids in those
Yeah.
countries, they're always, like, smiling and laughing, and the first thing
Mhm.
I think is like, "Oh, I rarely see or experience this in America." So I think that's
Yes.
very telling.
Yeah. The space to be free and to play and to feel safe. And it's not just one, I don't know, separated environment, one isolated environment, right? They have all of these other energies and nurturing energy that they're surrounded by. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it makes me think about like, have you ever thought about having like the communal living with separate women and you all just kind of like have a space together and you're on this big ranch in like Montana? Anyways, I think about that and I'm like, I would like that.
Oh, really? I actually thought about moving to Indonesia, but at the end of the day, it is a third world country, so there's, like, no
Yes.
healthcare. Like,
Yeah.
every time I visited, I've gotten sick, so it's like, if I can't even
Mm,
visit for a few weeks, like, how am I gonna
yeah.
live there? 'Cause, like, the
Yeah.
food and water are not clean.
Right.
Um, so I think there are positive aspects to certain ways of life, but there's also
Yes.
downsides.
Yes. Let's just build that community combine in Montana and we'll do it that
Okay.
way. I do want to ask you about your adventures. So, the bungee jumping and the Navy SEAL diving out of a helicopter. Tell us about all of that excitement.
So just to be clear, I don't consider myself an adventurous person. People think that I
Okay.
am.
Yeah.
The first real adventurous thing that I did was bungee jumping,
Okay.
and it was my attempt to because in 2018, before I moved to Hawaii, I went to this Tony Robbins seminar. I don't know if you know who Tony
Yeah.
Robbins is,
Uh-huh.
but it was, like, super inspiring, and that was, like, my first boost of motivation that I always wanna be a better person, I always wanna do things to improve myself. So
Yeah.
one of the things I struggled with for a lot of my life was getting out of my comfort zone because it's scary and it's uncertain.
Mhm.
So my original goal for getting out of my comfort zone, and this was after I moved to Hawaii, it was to plan a trip to New Zealand and Australia by myself because that
Okay.
that alone sounded terrifying, right?
Yeah.
Because like,
Yes.
traveling to a different country by myself.
Mhm.
But then I'm, like, researching things to do in New Zealand. Allegedly, bungee jumping was invented there, so
Oh.
apparently, if you go to New Zealand, the thing to do is go bungee jumping,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
and keep in mind, I'm planning this trip, like, 6 months before it happens, so I'm like, "Well, if this is the thing to do, then I'm doing it." So, of course, 6 months prior, I can confidently book the excursion to go bungee jumping, right?
Yeah.
But it did have a disclaimer, you can cancel up until 24 hours until your jump.
Okay. Okay. So
But
they were giving you an out.
yeah,
Okay.
but I was like, "I'm not a weenie, like, if I'm signing up, I'm doing it, right?"
Yeah.
Um, but it was totally terrifying, but I'm so happy I did it because I will never forget how proud of myself I was because it was just
Oh.
like, I did it, I was so scared for, like, 6 months, even
Yes.
doing it because when I was on the platform, he's like buckling up my harness and he was like, "So, how do you want to jump today?" And I was like I had never done it. I didn't know there were kinds of jumps. So I'm just trying not to die. And he was like, "Well, you can either stand on the edge of the platform and jump or run and jump." And I was like, if I stand on the edge of the platform and look down, it's not happening. So
Yes.
I was like, okay, I'll run and jump. So I'm standing on the platform and there's a guy and a girl who are like managing the whole thing. And I felt so nauseous. Like I felt like an anxiety attack coming on. I don't know if anyone has ever had an anxiety attack, but I felt it coming on. So I was like,
Oh, I feel
okay.
like not right now.
I was like, okay, I'm going to tell them that I need a minute. Oh, I left a
Mm,
part out. Also made a promise to myself, not only that I wouldn't cancel, but that I wouldn't hesitate on the countdown. Cause I was like, I don't want to be the person that
okay.
they say go and I'm still standing there. So I'm like,
Okay.
so I,
Frozen.
for 6 months, I was like, I'm not hesitating on the countdown. Like it was in
Mm,
my brain.
okay. Okay.
So anyway, I'm on the verge of a panic attack. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to tell them that I need a minute because surely this happens and they know what to do.
Yeah.
But then before I could even open my mouth, he started counting down from 5. So he was like 5,
And you're
4,
like, I
and
can't hesitate.
well, no, like on the 5 and the 4, I
Yeah.
was just kind of like, no, I'm having an anxiety attack. I can't do this. Then it got to 3, and that's when my brain was like,
Yeah.
it was like my subconscious was like, oh, no, 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 you're not
Yeah.
hesitating on the countdown. So
We're doing
it was
this.
funny when I looked at the video afterwards, I actually started running on 2. Like, not only did I not hesitate, like, I went early because it
Yeah.
was so programmed in my mind, like, do not
Mm,
hesitate. But anyway, it
wow.
was terrifying, but because it was so rewarding, I've made it a habit to
Mm,
continually do things outside of my comfort zone. So now I've been skydiving, I've jumped out of a helicopter, I try to do
yes.
all the things.
Oh my gosh, the value and the incredible word of pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone. And this applies to everything. It doesn't have to be
Yeah,
extreme bungee jumping and skydiving. It can literally be going to an event that you were nervous to go to. It can be meeting someone new. It can be starting a podcast,
totally.
starting your
But
LLC.
if you go bungee jumping, meeting someone new or going to a networking event or one of those things that you're afraid of feels like
Yeah.
child's play. It's like, oh, doing this scary thing,
Yeah.
it's easy. And
It's
that's the whole
completely,
point because it's
yeah.
like I proved to myself I
Mm-hmm.
can I can feel the fear and do it anyway. I can do it. I can trust myself. So, yeah, no matter how you do it, it's just
Yeah.
building the habit of being brave and basically trusting yourself because I trusted I
Yeah.
can do it. I could what is it Glennon Doyle who says I can do hard things or we can do hard things? It's
Ooh, shoot. I'm not
because
sure. Yes, but yeah.
yeah, I feel bad because I want to like
Yeah.
credit the right person, but it's
Yes.
just like proving to yourself that I can do hard things and sometimes it doesn't go well, but you can still learn from your
Yeah.
mistakes.
Yeah. And I feel like doing things to that extreme completely rewired your brain around fear, right?
And
And
that's
it,
why I had to do it in an extreme way, but I don't to your point, I don't think everyone doesn't have to do it in an extreme way. There are easier ways.
there are. But if you really want to like dive in and know that you can feel fear and still be safe, right? It's telling your body and your brain that, and your nervous system too, like I can feel fear and still be
Yes.
safe. Yeah. Move forward with that. And it is Glennon Doyle. That was her quote.
Oh,
So
okay, good.
yes.
Also, speaking of Tony Robbins, one thing I learned from him, and you might have heard from this before, fear and excitement cause the exact same physical sensations in your
Mm.
body. So when
Oh.
you also do like a scary thing like bungee jumping, because a
Mhm.
part of me was also excited, because I
Yeah.
actually could have turned that anxiety attack and reframed it into
Mhm.
excitement because it was kind of the
Yeah.
same physical sensations. But
Mm.
instead, my story was, this is so horrifyingly scary. I can't stand it,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. It's terrifying. Yes. I like that though. And I like the reframe, especially when we're talking about doing things like starting a business or doing a speaking event or meeting new people, reframing that as it's not fear, it's excitement. And look at the opportunities here, look at what can
Yeah.
open up. awareness. So, oh, I love that. I think that's hilarious that you're like, I've done all these things, but I'm not actually an adventurous person. And I feel like that's just such an incredible path of growth and evolution, though, and trying new things and being open. I feel like that's
Yeah.
so important.
I don't identify with adventurous, but I do identify with being courageous and open-minded. So I can see why that may come across as adventurous. Because,
Yes,
and
yes.
maybe I'm misinterpreting it, but I would assume someone who's actually adventurous would enjoy doing things like that. And it's not necessarily that I enjoy it, I just enjoy getting myself out of my comfort zone.
Yes, yes. That's interesting because I would consider myself adventurous, but I would also be absolutely terrified to go do that. I'd probably like it in the
Oh,
moment, but
interesting.
I would, yes. But I do consider myself adventurous because I like a little bit of the chaos, and I do think I reframe some of that fear as excitement just naturally because I
Mm.
don't typically experience a lot of fear about things that other people experience fear about. Usually I'm just kind of like excited and I'm like, ooh, what could happen, But
See,
it's not
but
a
it's because
it's
it's
not
the
a what
story you're
could happen.
telling yourself. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, because I don't think about what could happen in a bad way. I think about what could happen in an exciting way. Like what can I experience from this,
Mm.
trying something new, which would be scary. But so it's interesting. I love that. Yeah.
Have you
Uh,
ever skydived or anything like that?
no, heights are my biggest fear. It's on my
Me too,
list.
so that's why I choose heights as my thing.
I need to go do it. I do have quite a funny personal story though. So my bestie and I, we just spent this weekend in the Central Coast, California, and it was beach and wineries and all of these lovely things. And okay, I'm gonna I'm gonna share more. So I went out. I had a meal at a restaurant here in Scottsdale. I met an incredible man who has properties in Central Coast. Anyways, he was like, anytime you're welcome to come stay. And this is a testament to feminine energy. This is a testament to being open to opportunities because I just go out and I meet people and things happen. And so this man was like, you're welcome to come stay. So I messaged him 5 months later and I'm like, hey, is that opportunity still open? I would love to come stay for a few days. And so it was. We got to this place, girl. He handpicked flowers from his property, and he had stocked the fridge for us and got us wine and champagne. It was incredible. He went above and beyond, like very healthy masculine energy. And so it was our last day there, and we were at the beach, and so he sent me a message, and he's like, "Hey, do you guys want to go off roading? At the beach?" And I have a Jeep. I love going off roading. I've never been in the sand. I do it in the rocks here in Arizona.
Yeah.
It's not sand, so it's different.
Yeah.
I love it. I love the adventure, and my bestie's experienced off roading with me, but never in the dunes or anything. So we get in this man's truck, and we just hit the sand, and it is so chaotic and it's wild, and so I'm getting that excited giggly feeling, and I'm just like, this is so fun. And my bestie's in the back terrified.
Oh, yeah.
Terrified.
And you're having the
So
exact same experience, yeah. Because she's probably thinking we're gonna die.
we're gonna die, and I'm like, how freaking cool. So anyways, I mean, this man is flying, and he's been doing this since a young age. I felt very safe. He was very capable. We were safe. He was handling himself well. But just the experience. And so, anyways, we hit this bowl, and we're going sideways around this like the sand bowl, and we are flying, and the truck's like sinking down, right? And I'm like, wee, and she's terrified in the back. So we had a little conversation. That's the maximum amount of fun. We need to take them down a little bit of that fun level
Yeah,
going
I
forward.
definitely call that adventurous, though. I like that.
Yeah, yeah. So it's funny because that really related. That was just a couple weeks ago. And I was like, I want to experience that. And her and I's complete opposite reactions of the fear and the excitement. And yeah, yeah. I love it.
It would be funny to like take that clip of you just telling that story because I could just tell like how excited you were about the whole experience. And then it would be funny to have a clip of her telling her experience and have those side by side.
I'm going to have to do that. I'll have to do that.
And
Yes.
actually, and adding on to that, both of you describing your physical sensations because I
Mhm.
guarantee they're the same, even though your actual stories and the way
Yes.
you remember it are totally different.
Yes. That is so true. Wow. I love that. Yeah. No, that I was like, I just lived this. I love it. All right, Angie. Well, we are going to wrap up, but I do have a final question for you. What advice would you give our listeners if they want to start tapping into their self work, doing some of that inner work, some of that healing process? Where is a good place to start?
Well, not to my own horn, they can start with me. I offer a free call for clients, and the purpose of the call is to help because my coaching program is not for everyone. My personality may not be a fit for everyone. So the purpose of the call is just to dig in deeper to what you're struggling with. And
Mm-hmm.
then if it is a good fit, I can let you know about my coaching program. If it's not, I know other coaches. I know plenty of other coaches. I have other resources, so I can direct you to anywhere that you can get help. So the goal of the call is to get help. So if you're totally clueless and don't know how to look for help on your own, please reach out
Yes.
and I can point you in the right direction.
Yeah. I love that. And I feel like we want people to know that there are tools and resources and people available, right? Like there is always someone available for you. Um, okay, so let's say someone isn't quite ready to dive into coaching. They're like, I don't feel like I'm ready to open up quite yet. Are there any tools that you would recommend on their own for them to do? Any strategies?
That's a good question because I feel like there's several different things. I
Yeah,
would say two extremely important things to
yeah,
connect back with yourself is number one, connecting to your intuition. Because again, I used to ignore mine a lot, and that was a huge mistake. And then when
uh,
I started my healing journey in earnest, my intuition has played a huge part in trusting myself and connecting to myself. So
yeah,
that alone is invaluable. Another thing is boundary setting because I think a lot of women tend to fall into this people pleaser role or perfectionist role, and we care
yeah,
more about what other people think of us than what we think of ourselves. But when you get in the practice of setting boundaries, it
yeah,
not only does it teach other people what your standards are, it basically rewires your nervous system to know how much you respect yourself and what you do really deserve. So
yeah.
boundaries and intuition are huge because those are the highest forms of self-respect and self-trust.
Mm.
So if you start anywhere, those would be two places.
I love, love, love that. And our intuition as women is such a gift.
Oh,
It is
it's
such a gift.
magical. And we
Yes.
don't even those of us who are connected to it probably
Yeah.
aren't even using it to its fullest potential.
And we are taught to be so disconnected from it. We're taught to disconnect from anything that isn't logical, that we can't see, that we
Yep.
can't experience, right? And oh my gosh,
And
such a
now
gift.
I'm like one of the most woo-woo people you will ever meet. Like I
Yes.
talk to the moon, I talk to trees, all the
Yes.
things.
I'm always like, that's a sign. That's a sign. I absolutely love it. Okay. And actually, one little final tidbit. What's your next excitement? What's your next adventure? What do you have planned?
Like adventure or just in general?
Adventure, adventure. Yes.
Um, well, I'll say 2 things because one is like a business adventure. I'm getting coaching to be a speaker so I can actually launch my idea of the Love Tribe, so
Let's
I'm
go.
super excited about that.
Yes.
Um, but my next adventure, I'm going to Spain and Morocco in September. But the adventurous part about it is there's a ferry that goes between Spain and Morocco.
Okay.
Do you remember this? I'm dating myself. Do you remember the show Rick Steves Travels Europe?
Yeah. Actually,
Okay.
yes.
So
Yeah.
so he traveled Europe, but
Yeah.
there was an episode where he was in Spain and he took the ferry to Morocco. And
Mm.
for whatever reason, I've always been fascinated with Morocco, and I learned later on in life I'm actually 12% Moroccan, so maybe
Wow.
that has something to do with it. But
Yes.
anyway, so I have this opportunity to go to
Yeah.
Morocco to surf in
Oh,
September. So I
oh,
was
so
like, "Well, duh, I have to go to Spain and take this ferry." Um,
very.
but it's turning into like this whole adventure because 'cause I'm actually going to Mallorca, Spain, and then I'm
Mm.
flying to Malaga, and then I'm
Okay.
gonna have to figure out some kind of ground transportation. I'm hoping to take a car, but I might have to
Yeah.
take a bus. to
Okay.
Gibraltar, and then you
Okay.
take a ferry to Morocco, and then I have to I have to somehow find apparently Morocco has, like, an Uber system, so I might
Okay.
be able to just take an Uber to the
Yeah.
train, and then I'm taking a train to
Okay.
Casablanca, and then I'm flying from Casablanca to where I'm going surfing, so that's gonna be an adventure,
Oh my
but I'm
gosh.
excited.
That's incredible. I am so excited for you. I have goosebumps. So that's going to be a very important trip for you in many ways. So
But also that shows the power of your subconscious because ever
uh,
since I saw that episode, I've wanted to take that ferry and now it's happening. So,
yeah. Oh, I love that. You manifested it. How freaking cool. Yes. Well, thank you, Angie. Thank you for so much for sharing your vulnerable story and your experiences and the incredible transformation and evolution that you've experienced. And like, we're continually evolving and having experiences. So thank you so much for being on and sharing that with us. Can
yes.
you,
Oh, go
yeah.
ahead. I was
Oh,
just going to say thank you for having me on. I've been looking forward to this conversation.
yes. Can you let our listeners know where to find you?
Yes, I am on Instagram, Angie Hawkins 808, and my website is runninginslippers.com. You can find information about my book and my coaching. I don't know when this is being released, but I'm actually having a special promotion on my coaching for the month of August. It's
Ooh,
$1,000 off. So
okay.
just putting that out there. I don't know when
Okay.
this will be
Yes.
released. If it
We'll
is
put it in
released
the newsletter.
after August, oh, what? Go ahead.
I just say we'll put it in the newsletter for sure. So we'll make
Okay.
sure. Yeah, yeah.
But if it's
Okay.
not released till like the end of August or after August, still reach out to me anyway, because I'll find a way to honor that, even if it's past the deadline.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much. A little special for our listeners. I love that.
Because I think a lot of people tend to set New Year's resolutions, but
Mm,
you can change at any time. So the way I'm promoting it is going into 2026 on fire. So that way you don't even have to set a New Year's resolution.
I love that. I love that. I'm doing a program right now with my coach, and it's a mid-year manifestation program. And so I love it because we're literally tapping into everything that we've experienced beginning of the year and using that energy to build for the last half of the year. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I love that. Because I
yes.
think people tend to forget about the mid-year and end of year changes we can also do.
Yeah, yeah. Literally, we can change any day, anytime.
Exactly.
Uh, thank you so much for joining us today. And as always, if you like this show, if you feel like you got value from our episode, please, please, please share with other women in your life. This is the best way for us to help women elevate the collective. So I will see all of you goddesses next week.